Hello, and it's really good to have your company for this It's Learning Learning Thursday webinar. My name's Ella Coles and I'm a pedagogical consultant with It's Learning, which means I support schools and colleges all over the UK to use their It's Learning platform to get the very best out of it for you and your learners. Please feel free to ask any questions via the chat box, the question box on your GoToWebinar panel, and I'll try and answer as many as possible at the end of this webinar. Any we don't have time for, then we'll answer by email. The webinar will also be recorded, so please let any colleagues who couldn't attend the live session know so that they can catch up later. We're joined today by schools outside the UK, so a warm welcome to you. And if you have any questions arising from the webinar, please address them to your own national consultants who will be happy to help. In today's webinar, we're going to look at how you can introduce your new learners to It's Learning in a fun and engaging way, rather than just giving them a login and hoping for the best. First, we'll look at some basics to get your learners set up and able to personalise their account. Then I'll take you through a few ideas of different ways that you can create activities to familiarise them with the platform and the tools that they'll be using. I'm going to use a variety of sites to demonstrate what I'm telling you about today, so don't get too confused. The original It's Learning with the left-hand navigation panel, and also the brand new It's Learning with the menus along the top. If your school hasn't yet switched to the new It's Learning, don't worry. Everything I'm going to show you today can be done in both versions. The first job for all new users of the platform after logging in should be to complete their profile details. This not only gives you your learners a chance to put their own individual stamp on their learning platform, but also helps you and other staff to identify and get to know your students. Every year as my class began to create their online blogs, we would spend a long time talking about the dangers of an online presence and why not to use their real name, birthday and image of themselves. It's Learning is a secure, safe site to introduce learners to tools such as discussion forums, instant messaging, blogs, but it's still important to bring in some e-safety education. Although it's perfectly safe for students to upload an actual photo of themselves to their profile in It's Learning, it's still a good idea to get them thinking about appropriate images and the impression that they create on other users. Using a photo has the advantage of making it easy for staff and students to know who they're communicating with, especially in a large establishment. On the other hand, the use of an avatar to represent themselves can boost the confidence of less outgoing students, as they can hide behind their alter ego and feel less vulnerable and exposed. They can use a suitable image as an avatar or have fun creating their own version, or their own self-portrait, on sites such as reasonablyclever.com, which does the sort of Lego type avatars here. Build Yourself Wild, which they can use to add different body parts of animals and so on, and doppelme.com, which is another avatar generator site. There's many avatar generator sites on the internet, but do check carefully, as there's often an age limit, usually 13, or a requirement for the child to put in an email address. On-site advertising can also be inappropriate for younger children, so take care with the site that you choose. So I'm just going to go into one of my sites and show you how that would work. And I'll actually go in as a pupil. So while I'm in here, just move my webinar panel so that I can see what I'm doing. So I'm in as Cameron here, and in the original version of itslearning with the left-hand panel, to add the profile details, you just click on your name when you've logged in, and you need to go down to your settings, and to change details. Now you may find that you've already got your email address added in there if your establishment has done that as part of the account creation process. It's useful to have an email address in there because it means that you can use the forgotten password link on the login page. So it does cut down on the sort of number of times that you have to go in and change a learner's password if they have their email in here. Obviously for younger pupils, or if the school policy is not to use email addresses, then you can leave that blank, or just put in something like 123@abc.com. They can add a nickname for their instant messaging or for discussion if they want to. So Cam's nickname is Camdog. So we'll put that in there. And they can add a profile picture. So if I click on add picture and browse to where I've got Cam's picture, that will upload, and then I can just use the box to frame the image as I want it, use the little handles if I wanted to make it a little bit smaller as well. Once I'm happy with that, click on save. Now you do have the options as users to put in phone numbers, dates of birth. Again, these might have been pre-populated from the account creation process, but I usually tell my students that they don't need to put any of that information in there. It is nice though to put in a description because this will be visible to anyone looking at your profile. So I shall put I'm in Ivy class and I like dogs. Once that's completed, you can click on the save button, and that profile picture and description will then be available to anyone that clicks on Cameron's name wherever they find it. So clicking on the profile there, you'll see that that information is now in there. In the original version of itslearning, the profile picture not only appears in the profile card, but also in messaging, in bulletins and their comments, and discussion forums, and also in the Your Students tab for teachers to see when they're looking at their classes. In the newer version of itslearning, so if we just click through onto the newer version, exactly the same process, but clicking on Naeem's name here, it's the change details button here that he needs to click on to add his profile picture. And in the same way, click on add picture, browse to where he's got it stored. In this case, Naeem's got an avatar, and save. Do remember to click the button at the bottom of the page as well after the description if you're adding a description, and that will then feed through. It might take a few minutes, but it'll feed through to the the bar at the top here. So you'll be able to see in the new version the profile picture in all the places I just mentioned for the original version, but also in the menu bar at the top here. And don't forget to complete your own profile. So as a teacher, if I go into the new version, you'll be able to see, hopefully, I'm in as an administrator, so you won't be able to see that there. But if I go in as this teacher, if you've got your own picture in there, it really does help to make the platform a friendlier and give a more personal experience for your students. So that's profile pictures and descriptions. And one way of getting students into the habit of logging in, once they've got their login and they've put their profile in, is to have a daily quick quiz question. An easy way of doing this is to use the bulletins in a course. These will feed through to the student's homepage for them to see as soon as they log in. And students can also use the comment box on the bulletin to give their answer. You may want to add an incentive such as reward point for the first correct answer, although you don't tell them what the correct answer is until they've all answered, obviously. So if I go in as my teacher again, as Ruth Cottrell, and I'm going to go into my course into Ivy class, which is my groups course. And add a little quiz question in here. So let's say, who is the person on the back of the new polymer £5 note? The new indestructible £5 notes that have been released. Just to give them a little bit of a help on that one, I don't want them to spend too long on it. I'm going to go up and just use a quick video, which I can then add to grab the URL from the top of the video in YouTube and paste that into my bulletin. And I'll be able to see that then embedded in there. I'm not going to disable comments because I actually want that, that's the tool that I want to use in this case. So if I click on Add Bulletin, that will embed that video and my question in my course. So when Cam goes in to his course, we'll have a look in here, not only from Ivy class, which is where he would normally go to, and he will see when that's downloaded, well, when it's finished coming through on the internet. There we go. He'll see the video, which he can watch to find out who it is. Of course, a quick glimpse of it there. It does give a bit more of a picture later on, but we'll have to say, is it David Cameron? And eventually you'll see all the different answers come through on there. So Cameron will be able to see the bulletins from his course, not only in the course itself, but also on his home page. I know some schools have these set as the landing page for their learners. But here he will see all of the bulletins from all of his classes, all his courses, not just from Ivy class, but maybe from a maths course or an English course, you'll see those things coming through on there. One of the things that we just point out here is another example, which is a nice one to use. The Google Doodle archive is also a good source of this day in history type items. These are the little things that you see when you click onto Google search. If you look in their archive and search on the date, you can often find a really nice little video of something that has happened on that date in history, which you could also put your question on. So in that case, it's just a case of looking at google.com and it's doodles #archive is the URL to find those. For schools who have the school dashboard set as the landing page when users log in, you could also give a quick reminder to new users of how to find their way around the learning platform. I'll just go into a site here to give an example of that. So if I go to the school dashboard in the new version of this particular school, and you can see that here I have a ThingLink. ThingLink.com is a site that you can use to create images with hotspots in. So as a sort of temporary content block on my home page, I can give a guided tour, a virtual guided tour of the site. If I just show you how that looks in ThingLink, so thinglink.com is the site I'm on. Again, you create a free account with your email address, and that gives you the opportunity to create a simple image. And just go in and have a look on there at the ones that I was just showing you. So I upload a screenshot from my learning platform, and just moving my webinar thing again, I can then edit it by clicking on to create my hotspot, putting it wherever I want, and then typing in the information that I want to appear. So with the free account, you can set up your hotspots like that. If you want to pay for a subscription, you can embed video in these links, images, text, documents, all sorts of different things. And then once you've done that, I'm just going to cancel that hotspot for the moment because I don't want that one. Once you've saved the image, you can then click on share, and it will give you an embed code. So if I copy that code to my clipboard and go back to my site, and then using the cog at the top to add a content block, and I'm going to select the rich content block. And using this tool, the embed tool, just paste that code that I copied into there, and you can see that it is giving me a preview of my ThingLink. And if I click on insert, I'll see the placeholder, and OK, we'll add it to my page. As we've got there. In fact, that's the one I've just put in. So thinglink.com is quite a useful little thing for giving guided tours of your learning platform. To provide a more comprehensive introduction to its learning, you could set up an Its Learning Challenge course. In the course, you ask pupils to complete a number of different challenges which will make them explore and use the various tools in its learning. So here I've got my site. If I go into the course, Its Learning Challenge, you can see the sort of thing that I'm talking about there. Just moving my webinar toolbar again there. So in the course itself, depending on which version you're using, it's a good idea to have an introduction, some instructions on what it is that they're going to do. So this just been created in a page with an image and some text. And then set up some challenges for your students to do. And we're not actually, it's not so much getting the correct answer here. What we want them to do is explore and use the different parts of the learning platform. So this particular challenge is to find a particular discussion forum and then answer the question that they find in the discussion forum without writing anything. The idea obviously being that I want them to explore the rich text editor and find out how to self-record video, self-record audio, maybe put in an image, that sort of thing. I'll just show you the settings on this particular activity. I'm using a custom activity rather than an assignment here because I'm not actually requiring them to submit any work back to me. But what I can do in a custom activity when I'm setting it is to, in the various options that I have here, is to track whether the activity is being completed and ask the participants to set completion. This means once they've actually completed the task, they come back to their activity and they just switch the little switch on it to say that they've completed it. That will then give me the opportunity to follow what they're doing from that particular custom activity. I can see who's completed it, who's marked it as completed, and I can feedback as well as a comment on that, just to keep encouraging them if I want. So if you prefer to set tasks that require the students to submit an answer, you could use assignments instead. And again, Its Learning will show you which pupils have completed each task as you go through. So depending on what your school or organisation's way of working is, you can adapt the tasks to reflect the kind of activities that you'd normally expect your learners to do. So it might be something like sending a message the person after you in the register, or to a particular assigned person to find out something really simple and silly like what they had for tea last night, just to get them using the messaging system. Or respond, as we've just seen, to a question in the discussion forum. Maybe find a named page in an Its Learning course and complete an activity on there. Answer a self-marking quiz, or fill in a short survey. Using the status report in the assignment can show you how your students are getting on, but you've also got, if you go to status and follow-up in your course, either at the top in the new version or in the left-hand navigation panel in the original version, you'll see a number of different reports that you can use to give you an overview of which tasks and areas your learners have accessed. So, for example, the personal report or the summary report will show me for a particular student or for the whole class which tasks they've actually completed, which ones they haven't done, and which pages, which discussions, which activities they've actually visited and taken part in. You can also include some embedded activities for extra interactivity. So Quizlet.com is a nice site for creating matching games and practice for vocabulary items. You could use a Quizlet matching game to practice some key vocabulary, for example, against the clock, and then students could take a screen grab of their best score and put it in a discussion thread. Or perhaps have them add a link to a topic-based website, a quotation or a favourite tip in a Padlet board, for example. Padlet.com gives you the opportunity to create a notice board. Again, you grab the code just like with ThemeLink that they provide for you, and you use the embed button in the rich text editor to embed it in your page. And then as many students as you like can then go on, click on the board and add a quote, a picture, whatever it is you've asked them to do. The challenge can be as simple or as complicated as you like, and you can encourage your learners to continue at home as well. If the challenge is set up as a separate course, you can take a copy when you've finished with it and archive the original one with all the submissions from your learners. You'll then have a fresh new course available for the following year. Just add your new students when you're ready. Until you add students to your course as participants, that course will only be visible to you and any other staff who are participants also. You may have asked somebody to help you build those various tasks and activities in the course. Another fun approach to getting your learners to explore the platform is to set up a treasure hunt. It's a good idea to have a background story and a welcome page to set the scene so that they know what they're looking for. Then you can be as inventive as you can with hiding your chosen objects around the platform. It might be stars, gold coins, aliens, whatever you choose. Let the students know how many they're looking for and how they can record them. One way of doing this would be by setting them an assignment with a template document to download and fill in with the location of each one they find. This can then be marked and a certificate or voucher attached with the feedback for the lucky winners. You could even set letters of the alphabet to be found. It'd probably be better to use images in a very distinctive font for that, but hide those around your itslearning platform, and your learners could then collect all the letters and rearrange them to make a word as their solution to the puzzle. Of course, this sort of activity doesn't need to be confined to the start of the year. So if your learners have already started using itslearning and you've been creative in your introduction to the platform, you could perhaps think about a Christmas treasure hunt with presents to find, or an Easter egg hunt, or even do a topic-based one for your course. Work up the anticipation with announcements in assembly and posters around the school, and just make sure that the pupils have all the correct permissions to see the places that you hide your aliens or pirates or stars or whatever it is you're using. One secondary school have now had 2 theme-based hunts on their learning platform. Admittedly, it's not an itslearning platform, but it works in exactly the same way, the same principle, whichever platform you're using. They've had a pirate-themed one and a Wild West one, and even the head teacher entered into the mood with his scene-setting video.
Sheriff Street, you've foiled me for the last time. Now it's your time to pay. Dastardly Danny, I'm not scared of your toys. Did a plasma screen do this? Maybe not, but I can't do this. Teachers will give you tests for breathing, and your fingerprints are going to be used about the teachers' lunches. This is absolute chaos.
So they went quite a long way through sort of playing with posters of staff members stuck up all over, the wanted posters all over the school, and they had 100 sheriff stars were hidden all over their learning platform. Not only was the hunt a success and great fun, but the use of the platform went up significantly as staff who'd never logged in suddenly saw the potential, and students whose use had been limited to 1 or 2 courses began to demand more lesson activities based online. Whatever level of activity you decide to do, it's a good idea to plan it carefully. Get colleagues to collaborate on setting it up in itslearning. So have a think about which features of itslearning you want your pupils to become familiar with first, so you know what sort of tasks to set them. What support are you going to give, if any? How will you track what the pupils are doing and see how many of them have visited the various parts of the platform? And think about whether or not you're going to offer a prize or an incentive or a reward for carrying out the activities that you're asking them to do. Depending on how you set up your hunt or challenge or individual activities, give some thought to how you'll monitor your learners' participation. Could be through any of the reports you see there, which are all available either through the actual activity itself, the resource element itself, or through status and follow-up where you find your reports. You could also set up a survey at the end so that they can feedback what worked well and what improvements they'd like to see. Well, if you'd like to try one of these ideas or have other ways that have been successful in introducing itslearning to your users, please share them with us either by emailing me at ella.coles@itslearning.com or tweeting to @itslearninguk with hashtag Learning Thursdays. If you have any questions, I'm just going to check the questions on the board here. Doesn't look like we've got any at the moment come through. If you have any questions, please do feel free to put them into the question box now. And if any come through before we close the webinar, I'll email those questions and answers out. So I hope this has given you some ideas on how to help your students become more familiar with itslearning in a fun and engaging way. Let us know how you get on. Thanks very much.